So fellas, today we're going to be talking about the perk Headstone. This has actually become one of my favorite perks in the game. It is found on stasis weapons and essentially states that precision final blows will spawn a stasis crystal at the victim's location. Now there's not that many weapons that roll with Headstone. Currently right now we only have 3 weapons in the game, and that is Peace Bond, the Ironbender sidearm, Vulpecula, which is the new kinetic 180 round per minute hand cannon this season, and Reed's Regret, which is the Trials of Osiris linear fusion. Now if you save some of your bounties from last season, Ironbender bounties, Trials of Osiris bounties, it's a possibility you've already gotten Reed's Regret or even Peace Bond, which is exactly what we got. We got Peace Bond here with Headstone. And the other day when we started actually going over this perk live on stream, a lot of people were just disregarding this perk, saying that it's not good, that they would prefer things like Rampage or Kill Clip or some damage dealing perk, and that Headstone is not worth the perk slot. Fellas, I cannot disagree more with that. Headstone is a top tier meta option for my players that like to synergize with their stasis abilities. You see guys, Headstone doesn't just spawn a stasis crystal. If enemies are within close enough proximity of each other, it'll spawn that stasis crystal and freeze the surrounding enemies. And there's a lot of things that can occur when you freeze an enemy. If you take Warlocks for instance, the Aspect Ice Flare Bolts and Glacial Harvest are able to synergize here with the Headstone perk. And you can see it right here. After killing frozen targets, Ice Flare Bolts is activating, sending off more freezes to the surrounding enemies. It's a chain effect, and that's something that Headstone presents even beyond weapons like Cryosthesia. Just by simply landing a precision kill, this will spawn a stasis crystal. And we're not even talking about the fragments that also synergize here. Whisper of Chains, Whisper of Rhyme. All of this is able to be dipped into by simply spawning stasis crystals at ease with this Headstone perk. Another interesting combination was actually on the Titan class. Titan actually got a rework there to Cryoclasm, where you can essentially immediately shatter stasis crystals with your slide. Cryoclasm overall has been feeling very, very good. But that in combination with the stasis crystals that you are spawning with Headstone allows for constant slide shatters to occur, which does a lot of AoE damage to the surrounding enemies. And in the process, Whisper of Fissures, which allows for that increase in the damage size when you destroy a stasis crystal. And you can even double dip this into things like Diamond Lance, where it states that shatter or defeated targets with stasis abilities create stasis lance. That's right, getting that freeze off on an enemy when landing a precision kill, when you destroy that target, will spawn one of these lances. You see guys, this is just going beyond what we suspected from this perk. It's not just a standalone perk. It's able to be synergized with all of our stasis abilities, which some weapons already do with our light subclasses. Take for instance Prometheus Lens, which kind of like falls under that burn category, which is why it's able to synergize with Middle Tree Gunslinger so well. Headstone presents a way for us to synergize with all of our fragments and aspects. Hunters for instance that are rocking things like Shadow Dive, you can pretty much constantly wombo combo without ever having to wait on a grenade. Now granted, you do have a small cooldown there after you Shadow Dive, but the point is these back-to-back stasis crystal spawning into shatters is easily achievable with the perk Headstone. Now I mentioned a second ago that Headstone is only found on 3 different weapons. The sidearm is not bad, but really the weapon I'm actually gunning for is actually the hand cannon. This hand cannon has a lot of perks, and we're eventually going to go over all these perks as well. Adagio, Harmony, Ensemble, Encore, etc. But personally, I find that one of the best combos you can go for in this sandbox, if you like to rock stasis, which I very much like to do, even in things like Grandmaster Nightfalls, I can see myself using a weapon with Headstone. But something like Headstone and Outlaw together would be perfect. I would say that's the only downside to this sidearm, is that you do have to be close enough proximity to, of course, land shots and, of course, land precision shots. But if you have a hand cannon, landing those crits from afar should be easier. And if the day ever comes where we get a scout rifle with Headstone, it's GG's, because then you can just sit in the back of the map and freeze opponents at ease. Now, is Headstone a perk you can utilize inside of PvP? We've been showing it off in PvE, and obviously it synergizes so well with so many of our fragments and aspects. Inside of PvP, it's much more difficult. And for the most part, the only way you're going to get a freeze off on enemies in both PvE or PvP is if the enemies are within 2 to 2.5 meters of each other. That's not a lot. So if you're looking to freeze an opponent, they're really going to have to be grouped together in order to actually achieve that, and pretty tightly at that. Headstone is not necessarily a perk I would utilize in PvP, although you can. If you can imagine pushing up on a group of enemies, landing a crit, dropping a stasis crystal, and immediately following up with a Shadow Dive, absolutely you can do that. However, is it more beneficial to do that or just have a weapon perk like Kill Clip or Rampage or something there buffing your damage? I think Headstone will become a better option on certain weapons in the future for PvP. I like the idea of a slug shotgun in Headstone. The idea of pushing up, landing a precision shot on an opponent, dropping a stasis crystal, and then immediately cryoclasm myself into that stasis crystal and watching that burst of stasis kill the surrounding enemies. The idea of that sounds really cool. Or a sniper rifle with Headstone. So I'm not gonna say that Headstone is a garbage perk for PvP. It definitely isn't a garbage perk for PvE, but for PvP, it is gonna be very much dependent on the weapon. And if the gun has base stats and base lethality all on its own, then something like Headstone will just be a very nice added bonus. My only suggestion for those rocking Headstone inside of PvE, look at your fragments and aspects and make sure that you are adhering to whatever it is it wants you to do. Just because you're getting shatters off on a stasis crystal doesn't necessarily mean you're able to take advantage of some of these aspects. Take ice flare bolts, for instance. It wants you to not just shatter a stasis crystal, but actually shatter a frozen target. I think where the beauty of Headstone comes into place is just its ability to synergize with your current stasis build. Whatever your favorite current stasis build is. I love rocking Headstone alongside stasis turrets. A combination of slow, which is pushing my enemies to be more slowed and grouped together. And when I do get the Headstone kill off on an enemy, it's much likelier that I actually land the double freeze. Thus, of course, proccing ice flare bolts. So again, this combination of things here that makes Headstone a top tier perk. So overall, Headstone only available on 3 weapons. I would definitely target it more on the hand cannon Vulpecula. The sidearm is not bad though. If you are a big fan of stasis, if you like synergizing fragments and aspects, if you like shattering stasis crystals over and over again and watching this synergy flow together, then Headstone is a perk you're gonna want. So guys, let me know in the comments below what you think of Headstone so far. Is it a top tier perk? My main thing about Headstone is actually what it presents to us and what I feel like is gonna come in the future. Meaning today we have a perk that allows us to spawn stasis crystals at a victim's location. Tomorrow we may have a perk that will spawn this void volatile light that does these consistent implosions. Hence the void subclass rework that's coming in Witch Queen. The point I'm trying to make is that I think we're going to continue to get perks that are going to go beyond just being a damage dealing perk or a consistency perk, because that's essentially what we've had with all of our weapons. This perk right here on this gun increases the damage or increases the accuracy, but now we're starting to get into perks on legendaries that synergize with our subclasses. And I think Headstone is going to be the first perk of many going into Witch Queen and beyond, where we start seeing perks for Void, Arc, and Solar that will synergize with whatever our future light subclass changes will be. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.